Absolutely. If it's the cooking ones, we can definitely have a live webinar.
Maybe we should have kosher champagne for our 180th webinar. 5 still to go. But if you haven't seen the latest edition of the Jewish Report, it is our Rosh Hashanah edition. It is 54 pages long, and it is full of the most remarkable, inspiring insights into Rosh Hashanah and some amazing stories. So you can see the headline this week is, in fact, about a solidarity mission to Israel that was going to take place in the South African forest in Israel. And shortly before going, Hezbollah rockets attacked the South African forest in Israel, and they had to move the ceremony that they were hoping to have there. They had to move it in to the grave of one of the South Africans who has been murdered since the 7th of October. It is a must-read. The entire edition is a must-read. So where can you get your copies? I think everyone who watches us already knows. You can pick one up at CNA or Exclusive Books or your local Spar or your Checkers or Kosher World or your garage shop in about 240 locations around South Africa. We distribute every single week to you free of charge. Go pick up your hard copy of the South African Jewish Report newspaper, especially given that this is the Rosh Hashanah edition. In addition, if you would rather go onto our website, don't forget our website address, www.sajr.co.za. Obviously, SAJR stands for the South African Jewish Report, and you can either download the entire edition of the Jewish Report, or alternatively, you can go and read each of the individual articles independently. There are a lot of articles to read, so I suggest you download the entire edition. All of our webinars, all 175, in fact, I'm lying because there are probably about 4 or 5 that aren't online, but approximately 170 of our 175 webinars are available to you to go back, especially over this Yom Tov period, if you've got nothing to do, if you're a little bored, and especially if you watched or missed our last 2 webinars. Last week, we did an amazing one with Anne Nurek on the winner of the Cannes Lions Advertising Awards. Really sensational to see what's happening in advertising around the world. And the week before that, we had Aviva, the South African hostage, Aviva Siegel, who was held by Hamas for 51 days and whose husband Keith is still being held hostage in Gaza. It was the most chilling, emotional, remarkable story. But Rabbi Doron Peretz, who joined us as well, who lost a son on the 7th of October and had a second son injured on that day as well, he told just one of the most remarkable, enlightening, and inspiring stories that you've ever heard. To hear someone who's been through that degree of tragedy, just filled with hope and love, absolutely remarkable. If you missed it, please click on the webinar section on our website, or alternatively, don't forget, you can always go onto YouTube and just search for the SA Jewish Report, and you'll see all of our past webinars there. Now, there's some important things that you need to know about the APSA Jewish Achiever Awards. We opened voting on Friday of last week. More than 3,000 people have already voted. It's the Jewish Achiever Awards. There are a number of categories that you can go vote for. Have your say. There are amazing people that we have this year. Our bit.ly link, our short link is bit.ly/JAA vote, JAA vote. That's our bit.ly link. Please go onto the website and vote for all of the nominees in this year's APSA Jewish Achiever Awards. I think you will find each of their stories more inspiring than the next. So don't forget to do that. And also don't forget, we want you at those awards. They are the charity fundraiser for the South African Jewish Report newspaper. And we've honored some of the most remarkable people in South Africa. The South African Jewish community who has built this nation from 1994 and before. We recognize the work that they've done in humanitarian work, in community service, in the arts and sports, in business, in entrepreneurship. And we also recognize the rising stars of our community. So don't forget, you can be at the Jewish Achiever Awards. You need to go book a table of 10 people or an individual seat. It is a charity fundraiser, so we make no excuse of the fact that it's slightly expensive, but to put a person in a seat costs us a lot of money for these awards, and we'd love to have you there. So bookings are now open. You can see how to book on our website. I think there's no link on the advert that we have in front. So Dylan, I hope you post into all the chat section how people can book for Jewish Achiever Awards. But really, we want to see you there on the 17th of November when the awards take place. So with that, Dylan, thank you for being on controls this evening. A big reminder to absolutely everyone that this is not a monologue, it's a dialogue. You have a chat section on Zoom, you have a chat section on YouTube and on Facebook and on Instagram as well. So you at any point in time can go in, make a comment, ask a question and participate in the webinar. We want to know where in the world you're actually watching us from. So please don't forget to post. I think I've given everyone, everyone has the ability to chat with everyone. Let's just double check that. No, the chat is now on. So please tell us where in the world we're watching. And Dina, tell us what we have in store this evening.
So as usual, when it comes to Rosh Hashanah, everyone at every single Jewish holiday, everyone starts panicking and everyone wants to start making something new, something fresh. And that's where we try and go. So we've tried to look globally and see what we can get. As we say, we still have to narrow down that Sephardi connection. Although we've tried to get some from Mexico, we just unfortunately may have an issue there on connectivity. So we hopefully she'll come on. Alegra from Mexico. We have, we'll start with Tobias over here, who is just the absolute legend of legends, especially with her desserts that always serve to make our mouths water. And then we've got Romi Rabinowitz, who has done a cookbook with Dina from Lithuania. So she'll be sharing 2 of her recipes, actually, which is fantastic. And then we've got Sassoon, who is actually has got an Iraqi origin, so South African, Iraqi, now Israeli, and also some really, really interesting stuff. And I think, yeah, we're going to always try and see what else we can do just to turn up the heat a little bit in the kitchen, try and get some new ideas. And then obviously we'll be speaking also soon to Shelley Trope-Friedman, who is the president of WIZO South Africa. And then also, in addition, we have Aleeza, who is the official Jewish matchmaker from Netflix, who has done a beautiful message for us. She's absolutely entertaining, I think, on and off screen, and very wise, actually, very, very deep words. You'll hear her. And yeah, so I think we've got a full lineup. We're making sure that it's not going to go too long because we know you guys have got a lot to do. It's pre-Rosh Hashanah. So it's going to be really, really great. So stick around and yeah, stay for all those yummy, yummy, yummy ideas. And just also to add, we'll be sending out the recipes because people always ask us. And if you're on this webinar, you will be getting the recipes.
So, Dina, in fact, we were going to be joined by Doris Goldschmidt from Costa Rica. I see Lois has joined us from Costa Rica. Doris is ill at the moment. She's got flu, so she can't do it. This is one of my favorite cookbooks from Costa Rica. Lois, I see you watching from Costa Rica. If you don't have this book, Doris's cooking is absolutely amazing. When she's feeling better, we're definitely going to have her on another webinar. And people are watching us tonight. I see from Costa Rica, from Cape Town, from Baltimore, from Johannesburg, from Kibbutz Ner Eliyahu, from Vancouver, from London, more people in London, people in Dallas, from Reno, Nevada, from Sea Point Shtetl, it says, Cape Town, Johannesburg, Victoria, British Columbia. We've got an audience.
Luxembourg,
yeah. Amazing. We've got an audience all over the world. So we certainly have some inspiring cooking to do tonight. So Dina, tell me, you invited Shelley onto the show tonight. You've used WIZO you've reached out to WIZO and said, come help us celebrate in a cooking table, an international cooking table before Rosh Hashanah. Tell us why you invited Shelley on this evening.
Well, I've been involved with WIZO for many, many, many years, actually since I got married. And I've been to a lot of the projects that WIZO is involved with, especially in the South African projects, from the foster homes, and I'm sure Shelley will tell us some more. But the work that they do is absolutely, absolutely incredible. And what's really amazing about this organization, and what I think is actually quite unique, is that it's truly global. So there are over 50 federations in the world, and it brings together women literally that are joined together by a common cause, by a common connection, and that all want to do good, that all want to contribute. And it's an amazing sisterhood of women that really do amazing, amazing work. So I thought, especially if we're looking and we're going through tough times as a nation, as a people, as an Israel, as a country, and I thought to bring on Shelley, who is so involved in that kind of work and really understands the connectivity of the woman, that during this time to bring the unity of our people together to just demonstrate what makes us tick, I think is absolutely so important. So hopefully she'll tell us some more.
So Shelley, tell us a little about WIZO. And in 2 or 3 minutes' time, we're going to move over to the cooking. But it's really important for us to understand the enormously important work that WIZO does and what you're doing at the moment since the 7th of October last year.
Absolutely. First of all, thank you so much, Dina, for your beautiful words and for the appreciation that you have of WIZO, because it truly is an organization that is just remarkable, all for women, through women, for men as well on a different level, but to actually strengthen the society itself. Because WIZO is Women's International Zionist Organization. That's the name of it. And it's a leading organization for education and social services, promoting an equal society for all of Israel. It's the largest social welfare organization, as you said, in Israel. And it's a remarkable organization. And it's supported by a global network, as you said, of incredible Zionistic women who all fundraise for the same end goal in mind, to maintain and sustain those who need it most in Israel. So we are entirely Israel-based. And everything to do with Israel is part and parcel of what we do. And any monies that have to go to Israel go through us to the actual soldiers, to the women, to the children, to the people who really need it most. Now, for over 100 years, we've impacted the lives of countless of Israelis through all stages of life, from babies in our daycare center to youth in our villages and schools, and further to that, we assist and protect young girls and women at pivotal junctures in their lives. It's just an amazing organization. And the objective is, of course, to create a better future and strengthen vulnerable families. Yeah, WIZO does support over 800 educational and social welfare projects in Israel. That's a lot. So Howard, I'd love to actually be involved in your cooking more, and I'm waiting for it, but I just wanted to tell you a few little things about WIZO, and please feel free to ask me any questions you'd like to on the way. WIZO is supported by 38 countries with over 100,000 engaged volunteers, and I'm a volunteer. I've been president of WIZO for the last 4 years, and I've been involved with WIZO for many years prior to that. We won't say how many, but many. It's actually, how can I put it? It's a group and an organization which are united with the sole goal of strengthening Israel's society. Now, what examples? Where do we exist? I can't name all 40 different countries, but I will tell you that Mexico, I don't know where Alegra is, but Mexico, India, Hong Kong, Australia, South America, United States of America, Greece, Italy, Finland, United Kingdom, all of them and more are all part of WIZO. And all of them are known as federations who support Israel. Through these programs, WIZO continues to lead transformative initiatives that promote social resilience and gender equality in Israel. It's funded by international branches known, as I've said, as federations, and consists of volunteers and donors who help us to do what matters in Israel. How do we work together? Well, women around the world are very involved in their solidarity with Israel and with World WIZO, which sits in Israel. And we have a deep and sincere partnership all along the way, especially with the challenges that we face and in prayers of what is to come in the end. And I just want to quote something that I actually thought might be of great interest to you. In his address, and I'm going to read this, to the worldwide WIZO community, the Israeli president, the Honorable Isaac Herzog, said, WIZO is woven right at the center of the story of Israel. Now think of that, of the story of Israel. And I want to thank, this is where he continued, I want to thank each and every one of you that is part of this vast and powerful web of caring that is called WIZO. And referring to the war, he said, we will rise again, we will recover, and we will rebuild, and WIZO will be a part of it. So now you know a little bit about what it is. I'm not sure that you want to know, or you would like to know about the various projects, Dina, that you're talking about. I don't know what projects you've actually visited, but we have daycare centers for children, 167 daycare centers in Israel, where we look after 12,000 babies and toddlers from birth to 3 years old. And this creates a warm and secure environment in which the children survive and thrive. And it provides emotional support and developmental support to every single child that goes there. Now, why do we have the daycare centers? This is so that the parents can do their own thing. They can go work, be called up, unfortunately, to the army, whatever it is. We have them in our daycare centers, looked after, and the parents can feel quite secure in going away. And in fact, when I tell you about what's happening with our war experience and what we are doing with the war, you'll understand that, yeah, it's just so important and it's so special.
So Shelley, we've got about 1 minute left. So select
what would you like to hear?
Select one project that you want to tell us about, and we're going to post in the chat section on Zoom and YouTube the link for WIZO so people can go read about all of the projects that you're involved in.
Wonderful. Okay, one project, and then I'll tell you very quickly what's happening in Israel, what we're doing. One of the projects is WIZO. It's our project. It's a South African project. So that's one of ours. Tens of thousands of children are removed by the authorities from dangerous and life-threatening home lives after claims are filed in Israeli courts relating to child neglect or physical, sexual, or emotional abuse. Without intervention, these children might fall victim to their circumstances like malnutrition or neglect. Now, WIZO is a foster family community consisting of 5 houses located in Herzliya that provide a warm home and substitute family for children who've been removed from their homes by court order. Each home is about 8 children, and we're now currently trying to build it to be 12 and are renovating. And that's why it's so important for you to post it for us, Howard, because each single one looks after these children who, with foster parents who've got their own children, and they're caring for each and every one of them, send them to schools until they eventually pass matric, graduate, and end up going by, they have to go to the army. So that is what they do. And of course, some of them have got bursaries. If you look at the soda fountain, Soda Spring, which used to be this incredible Soda Stream story, he was a WIZO child. And there are so many in the army and all over. Howard, thank you. If even just WIZO and possibly our daycare centers for little ones, it would be wonderful if you could do anything to support us. Because we're volunteers, and we are dependent on every single cent we get, particularly in South Africa, where our rand is so little. And we watched Australia and London and America giving like major dollars, and we give our rands. So thank you. And thank you for the opportunity of talking to you, really. And I'm so pleased, Dina, that you're part of us, and please remain part of us forever.
So Shelley, I see tonight that we've got Ezra Moses on from India, and his wife Yael, I know, is a big WIZO member, and she did, Dina, one of our cooking shows probably a year back or so.
Indeed, I did ask Yael, but unfortunately she was unable to do the actual pre-cooking. But Yael's always on my top list, and I've even seen them in India. I've been to India, so we love having them anytime.
Fantastic. Shelley, thank you so much for joining us. If you want to know more about WIZO, the link is in the chat section on Zoom and on YouTube. Please go on and read about all their projects. And if there's anything that you can do to help and support, we really encourage and urge you to do that as well. Thanks, Shelley. Good night, and thank you for joining us. So, Dina, shall we get on? I'm getting a little hungry.
Let's get the show started with Kim Tobias. You can see, I mean, this is why she is called the coeksister, because she is always cooking, and she's the sister. She's happy, she's smiling, she's making yummy treats, and this is no different. So what I like is that we're actually going to start in reverse and start with dessert. They say you should always start with dessert, and the meal's always going to be great.
So can I tell you a story? Because I was on a boat with some people, and the first night, they looked at the menu and everything looked so delicious, but they didn't eat milk after meat. And so they actually said, they wanted to try all the desserts. So they had all the desserts first, and then they had the meat course afterwards. So, Kim, what are we cooking tonight?
Okay, am I up? I must be honest with you. After following Shelley, I feel like this is trivial and frivolous, but nonetheless, we all have to eat, right?
Absolutely.
That's what keeps us going, that we can give. So it's absolutely required, Kimmy.
Okay, well, my mother would like to take up the boat issue because she goes from dessert backwards, because that's how she rolls. She loves desserts, hates food. So she's up for this. So tonight I have made a video. It might be a little bit fast, but it's quite a simple recipe. So I did go reach out to a few people and said to them, you know, what would you like to see? And they said, as long as it's easy, as long as it's quick, because none of us have got time. But reinvent an apple. So I said, all right, well, I'll try. So I have reinvented an apple dessert, which everyone wants to have the honey, the apple, the sweetness, the goodness, because God knows we need it more than ever. And I have decided to make, because I have a milk meal for first day, I have made this milk, but there is a para version which I will just explain. It's on the video, but I will explain it further after you've seen it. So it is a apple crumble tiramisu. So if you want to roll the recording, and then I can discuss it afterwards if anyone needs any explanation.
Fantastic.
Marvelous.
Let's see it.
Shana Tova, everybody, and welcome to the Coeksisters kitchen. This is where all the magic happens. And I just wanted to wish you all a good yontif, and hopefully we're going to reinvent the apple dessert. So today I am going to make you a apple crumble tiramisu. Bit of a spin on everything going on, and I thought, how am I going to reinvent the apple dessert for all your tables? So I've done a version in parav, and I've got a version in milchik, and you can decide which one and where you want to go with your dessert. So here's your final product and what it should look like. On the parav side, I just wanted to explain to you about the orly whip. So you're going to get the very similar consistency to this cream and the cream cheese filling. So all you do is you take your orly whip it up with some caster sugar to your tasting. You add your 2 tablespoons of vanilla pudding. Don't forget them. That stabilizes the orly whip to give you the same consistency as what you see here. And you do the same layering. Your apple crumble tiramisu can turn into a meat and parav dessert, or it can turn into a milk decadent dessert. So I just wish you all a Shana Tova. May we only have goodness and sweetness and all the good stuff for the following year. We need it. Am Yisrael Chai, and hopefully see you next year.
Kim, I think you have to take us through. That was for the TikTok generation. I need some translating here. So let's start off with, okay. You were dipping finger biscuits into coffee.
Something.
Okay, so what I want to do with you is I want to take you through a few ingredients. So these biscuits are available. They are the old boudoir biscuits that we used to have, but I don't think they turned kosher after a while. They were kosher for a while, then they stopped. So these are the new replacement. They are available at Kosher World. I did go and check with them exactly what is available, because I don't want to make anything that nobody can find the ingredients too. So I made a reduction. It's on the recipe, so you can go to the recipe if you want to. I made a reduction on the stove of water, cinnamon, sugar, and a little bit of coffee, a half a teaspoon of coffee, just to give it the tiramisu taste.
Sorry,
And,
just right. Water, sugar, cinnamon, coffee, instant coffee.
Instant coffee. And with the cinnamon reduction, you put it on the stove and you let the water dissipate and it reduces, and that's what's called a reduction. So that's what we are going to dip the finger biscuits in. They are quite hardy, these biscuits, so they don't absorb too much like a tennis biscuit that falls apart. And what happens is as they sit overnight, the finger biscuit actually goes into like quite a spongy consistency, which makes up the tiramisu. The next
And just wait before you stop. Someone's just asked if they cannot find, if they're in Cape Town or wherever, and they can't find those finger biscuits, what else could they use?
So it's got to be a hardy biscuit. I did try and find a few biscuits. You can, I mean, the ginger nut biscuits, you're going to put a ginger flavor to it. Mari and tennis are far too unstable for it. So that there is, if you want to go into the non-kosher route, there are boudoir biscuits, but they're not a kosher product. So I'm not what.
How about a rusk?
The other thing that I do sometimes when I've got leftover cake, because God knows I've got that in my kitchen, I've got Hansel and Gretel kitchen, is I do a sponge layer of proper cake. So it turns into a Jewish trifle. Does that make sense? So you can actually, if you don't want to go the absolute traditional route of tiramisu, you can put a layer of sponge cake that you can whip up. It's really not difficult. There are lots of ready mixes available, and you can just put a layer of sponge cake in there. Don't do too much dipping because it might just fall apart. But these are
okay. So bottom layer is your cake layer, boudoir biscuits or sponge cake dipped into coffee or a coffee, sugar, water, cinnamon reduction. And then what's your next layer?
So the next layer is going to be your cream, which you whip up. You make
mascarpone.
So you do cream. So I'm making a mascarpone. So mascarpone is just generally a very, very thick cream that's got a type of a cream cheese consistency. So that's mascarpone. So we're making our own mascarpone, but with a little bit more stability. And that's why I use the Lancewood medium fat cream cheese. Do not use the smooth cottage cheese from Clover or from Lancewood because it's too watery. It will make your whole tiramisu fall apart. So you must get a very stable cream cheese, proper cream cheese. So it's very hard.
You whip it up in your beater.
First, whip up your cream with sugar first until it's quite hard and quite stiff. Then you add your cream cheese into your whipped up cream.
Or your vanilla custard.
Important part. This is the important part. It's my secret, but I'm going to share it. Can you believe it? This is vanilla pudding, okay? It's available absolutely everywhere. You can use any type of vanilla pudding. The kosher one is this one, Simply Delish, okay? This is a stabilizer. So if you want very stable, fresh cream and you want to put it on a meringue, add a bit of this. You won't know yourself. It's a trick. You know I like to give away tricks. So this is your stabilizer. And what it does is it actually binds up your cream cheese, and it makes it a very stable, wonderful consistency that's easy to work with. With Orly Whip, on the Parav side, you're going to do the same thing. Your Orly Whip, you're going to whip up with your caster sugar. I don't know how sweet you like things. I like things pretty sweet. I've given a sort of a measurement, but you can do it to your liking. And instead of putting the cheeses in to make it milk, you put 2 tablespoons of your vanilla flavored pudding. And that will just stabilize your Orly Whip, and you'll get back to the same thing, and it will be a Parav dessert. And that's what makes it, you can go either or. So your Orly Whip, I buy it in bulk. I don't know if you've seen these massive things, but I wish they had it for Pesach. This is a travesty that we didn't have this for Pesach. But we've got it for Rosh Hashanah. So we
And Bettina Bettina Bard in Cape Town says the simply delicious kosher vanilla pudding is available in Cape Town at the Sea Point Spa. And
Yes.
Janet tells us that the woman all understood how your recipe was. It's just for me that I need an extra explanation.
You can. You know what, Howard? There are lots of people that have no idea, and they watch every little teaspoon. How do you put it in? So you know what? Some of us are good cooks. Some are not so great, so I'm going to do it over the whole thing. Hermian's asking, where do I get this massive oily work from? Because we can't keep on buying those little containers. So I did buy this at DJ's. They have got it in their fridges. And this was literally cheaper than buying them individually in the 250 mils. So this is a full liter, and I go through oily work like there's no tomorrow. So I buy big versions of it, and they are available at DJ's.
Tim,
That's a whole lot of olive oil.
That apple mix. What was in the apple? And then you put nuts on, which I've never seen in a tiramisu before either.
Okay, so I don't shop at Woolworths as well, Howard, and I really found that that's something that I stand by. So Fresh Fellas have got envy apples. Have you ever tasted an envy apple?
No, I don't know what that is.
You don't know yourself. I'm delivering you envy apples. So envy apple is an apple that is crispy. It tastes like honey. It's very, very easy to work with. It's like a Granny Smith. So it's not like a golden delicious that's a bit, powdery, and it's not stable. The envy apple is the apple to eat. I'm not an apple.
Is it a green apple?
It's not. It looks like this is an envy apple. This one. It's very, very firm. It's crunchy, and it tastes like a pot of honey. So Fresh Fellas have also got it in at the moment. I know Woolworths do bring in envy apples, but I haven't gone there. So when I saw Fresh Fellas had envy apples, I went mad. I bought about 15 dozen envy apples. I think that's why I made the apple mush, because I had leftover envy apples. So in the apple, you can use any. I mean, if you like it more tart, go with the Granny Smith. But if you like it nice and sweet and honeyish, go with the envy apple. The rest of them are not great apples to cook with, to boil up, because they're not crispy enough. So you take your apple, peel it, dice it up, put it into a pot that's got water, a half a cup of sugar. They're quite sweet envy apples for Granny Smith. Work on the taste of your sugar that you like, because the Granny Smith are very tart. These ones I didn't put that much in. And you boil it up with some cinnamon, and you just let it boil until the apples have cooked and the water has reduced. And that's stewed apples. That is the layer that I've put in here. If you want to put your different spices in, if you want to put allspice, if you want to put any of the more carrot cake-ish type spices, you can go for it. But we like cinnamon. I haven't got a very adventurous family of taste buds, so that's what we do.
Tim, a few people want to know, how do you spell envy? Is it E-N-V-Y?
As in jealousy. Envy, E-N-V-Y. Envy apples.
And you put nuts in as well, walnuts.
So what I do with nuts, I've got a very sensitive thought process with nuts. You just need one person to not know that they are allergic, and you've got Hatzola here. So I don't personally cook with a lot of nuts. I don't send out my cakes with nuts ever. You need one waiter at a wedding or a person at a birthday party, and all drama hits all because of the cake. So you can put nuts. The nuts that you put in here would be in the crumble. The nuts that you put in here, and I'm going to go through the crumble now. So the crumble has got the nuts. You have to toast your nuts. Very important. They either turn very bland, or you can use the caramelized nuts. The caramelized nuts, you get into packets, you can use caramelized nuts. But I suggest you put your nuts at the end, because the nuts get a bit soggy the minute they hit any type of moisture. So your crumble and your nuts must go on before you serve, so that you've got that crunch that is in your tiramisu. So your crumble, can I go through your crumble? Because this one's a bit technical. It's not difficult, but
I'm taking
Boy.
notes. I'm taking notes. I'm a man. This
can
does not come naturally to me.
So you take your flour in a bowl, you put sugar in your bowl, all the recipes there, and you take butter for your milchik, and you take your I think it's blossom now. That's your parrot.
Cardin or blossom, yeah.
The cardin, not great.
Not great.
Go with your blossom. Sorry, not that I'm not punting them, but
No, I hear you.
let's go with blossom. It's a bigger taste for parrot, okay? And you take your, I think there are 4 tablespoons, 4 to 5 heap tablespoons of butter, and you massage it. You massage it in there, it turns into crumbles. So your crumbles should actually look like this, okay? They're hard pieces of a type of a muesli, but with flour, sugar, and butter. That's your standard streusel. That's the streusel they put onto all the challahs. You can put it onto any of your challahs that you're making over Yontif. And that streusel goes on top of your challah pre-cooking. But for this tiramisu, we take our crumble, you put it on a baking sheet, and you put it into the oven to toast. So the same way as the streusel's going on a challah to go into the oven, it makes it, all the sugar and the butter blend and pull together, and it becomes toasty. It becomes like a crumble, and it's quite delicious. But, okay, I shouldn't do that. So you put your crumble right at the end with your nuts, because that will give you the crunch that you're looking for. And that's how we do it. Is that a good enough explanation, Howard? I'm getting nervous.
All I can say, seems very complicated.
It's not. A little bit of
not
prep.
so much. You can do it.
Little bit of prep, not serious. The only thing you have to do tomorrow will be your apple stew, which you're going to use anyway. I take my apple stew that I've got, and I put it into the middle of the challah. I roll out the challah pieces, put the apple in the middle, I roll it up, and then you plait it. So when you cut down your challah, you've got all apple inside the challah. So I take this, I make quite a big batch. I make a big batch, and then I use it wherever I can find a space to put apples over Rosh Hashanah.
Guys, I want to tell you how amazing people are, because not only is everyone giving advice to each other on the chat sections, but Andrea Pokroy in Israel from Tel Aviv said she would like to help, so she's willing to volunteer her time for the project that was mentioned by Shelley for the kids in Herzliya. If they need any architectural services, she's willing to do it. Yesterday, I bumped into someone who is an oral hygienist who said, look, you often raise money. I don't have the ability to provide money, but when next you're bringing out hostages to South Africa to speak to the community, to speak to the media, when next they come, I'll come in on a weekend and I will do their teeth. I will do teeth whitening for any hostages who come to South Africa. I think that just shows a level of warmth and contribution by our community, which is what makes the South African Jewish community just one of the most remarkable communities in the world. So a huge thank you. That is absolutely amazing. And Shelley Geffen says, Kim, you're absolutely fabulous.
I learned from the best. Shelley was my caterer. I didn't do one function without her. So she's top notch.
I think I have some of Shelley's cookbooks sitting over here.
I'm sure. So, Howard, unfortunately, this time we didn't go with the golden balls. We'll have to do a Shavuot. I had it all prepared, but we didn't get there. Too much chaos going on in the world. But we will reinvent the golden ball next year.
Look, Shelley,
why can't you add golden balls?
So, Kim, you spoke about people's nuts instead of their golden balls this time. So you've covered all the bases.
Right, and I should have done a golden nut.
Bern wants to know, how can we get the recipe? And Dina, we're sending out the recipes to everyone who registered for today's webinar. So if you did, so please, let's make sure that you registered for tonight's webinar, and we'll send out, and we'll also post onto YouTube all of the recipes as well for those people who are watching us on YouTube. But do us a favor, in order to do that, please make sure that you've clicked the like and subscribe button on YouTube. So when we do post that you actually get notified as well. So please, if you're watching on YouTube tonight, it's very easy. Just click like and subscribe, and we'll make sure we post all of the recipes onto YouTube, as well as WhatsApp them out to everyone who watched this evening and who registered for tonight's show. We'll send it out via WhatsApp and via email as well.
Thanks so much for having me on, and I hope everyone has a good yontif. And we're going to be buying envy apples tomorrow for the whole of South Africa and the world. I don't mind.
Shana Tova to your family. And Kim, in our Rising Star edition, in our Rising Star category of Jewish Achiever Awards this year, there is an amazing DJ who just happens to be your son.
Thank you.
We mentioned earlier that voting is open for the awards. Dylan, I want you to go, please, and post the link for people to vote. And in the under 25 category, in our Rising Star edition, go and look at the amazing work that Kim's son, who's a fantastic DJ, actually does, and go and vote. And let's make sure that we increase our votes for this year for Jewish Achiever Awards.
Thank you for giving him a punt. And I feel like I'm on Idols here. Go vote. Go vote.
Go vote.
That was great, Kim.
Thanks, Kim. Good night. Thank you so much.
Oh,
Dina,
love the energy.
that was amazing.
Amazing. I know you're actually going to go and make it. I know you. You are going to.
I may very well try if I have time. And because I'm cooking a multi meal, I can actually do it with real cream cheese.
Exactly, and real biscuits. You just got to find the glass container. I was going to say, because the layers look amazing, so you got to do that. But so amazing.
You went to find us a chef from Mexico.
I did, but she seems to be lost in Mexico, unfortunately. So
taken out by one of the cartels.
Listen, hopefully not. Maybe her cooking was just so good. So we're going to try still and get hold of her. But in the meantime, what we also did is, I don't know who's watched the Jewish Matchmaker on Netflix. So that is Aleeza Ben David, and she is actually a friend of mine in Israel, and she had huge success. She was in LA, and it became an amazing program. And whoever gets onto Netflix actually sees how amazing it is. And she has specifically done a message for us and a little bit of inspiration. So we're going to play that now.
So this is the Jewish Matchmaker from Netflix speaking to all of us. Am I allowed to say I watched that show and I just cringed all the way through it?
Listen, it's who we are. We got to embrace it.
On Passover, we ask, why is this night different from all other nights? And I want to ask us today, why is this day, why is this year different than all other years? Hi, I'm Aleeza Ben Shalom from Jewish Matchmaking on Netflix, and I want to consider what it is that is going on for us. The Jewish people have suffered tremendously over the last year, and it's not past tense. It's not done. We are still in a deep state of mourning and pain and loss, so much so that it's nothing that we have ever imagined before unless you have lived through times like these. This has been one of the most painful years in history. And that's why Rosh Hashanah, that's why this year, the new year, is even more important than ever. Every single year, we have simanim, we have symbols that we do throughout Rosh Hashanah to incorporate something good for a new year. We dip the apples in the honey. We want a sweet new year. We have a fish head on the table. We want to be like the head, the rosh, the brains, the smart, the wisdom, not like the tail, right? Like the beginning, not the end. And we want to remember that during these times, even in times where there is incredible darkness, we are the light. We are what we can bring back to the Jewish people. And it's a tremendous blessing that we have technology like this, where even though I live in Eretz Yisrael, I made Aliyah 3.5 years ago, thank God we're here with our family. Even though I'm here, I can be here with you too at the same time. We have something so incredible now in this time period more than ever of the world to be able to connect and to interconnect throughout the world. We can bring South Africa a little taste of Eretz Yisrael, of the Holy Land, and we can connect and unite ourselves. So I want you to be thinking now, what is going to be for the new year? What are we going to pray for? What are we going to ask for? What are we going to thank God for? What is it that has happened to us, that has helped us to self-reflect? And what is it that can truly be a blessing for the new year? Even though there's been tremendous challenges, even though there's been war, even though we've had so much loss, do you know, in my world, in the dating relationship world, there have been so many more marriages. So many more couples have said, I'm ready to take the next step. They've woken up, they've said, now is my time and I need to do this. I need to build the Jewish people. How? I'm going to build the Jewish people by building my family. So I want to encourage each and every one of us to use our own inner light, our own inner power, to thank Hashem, to thank God for everything, all of the blessings. You have to look around and notice there are still blessings. There is still light in this darkness. What are those blessings? Thank God for those blessings. Express gratitude for everything good that you have. Pray on behalf of everyone, every soldier and every Jew in the world, that they should be safe and healthy and well. And especially, please God, for all of the singles that are seeking their soulmate, the people that are going to build and be the future of the Jewish people. Pray that each and every one of them find their soulmate. May you be blessed with the wisdom to have the right words at the right time, to say them to the right people, to touch people's hearts, and to build a better world alongside me and your community. I wish you a happy, healthy, sweet, blessed New Year. All my best.
How was that for a message, Howard?
Oh, fantastic message, Dina. I must tell you that I started by watching Indian Matchmaker on Netflix, and I absolutely loved it. And a large number of my friends just happened to be Indian, and they said they watched it as well, but they cringed. And then the Jewish Matchmaker came on, and I cringed throughout the entire thing, and they thought it was absolutely fantastic. So it's amazing when you look at maybe some of the people in your own community, you get a very different perspective as from outside, and I think that probably applies to every community as well. But what an amazing rock star of a personality on Netflix.
Absolutely. And also she was so gracious and lovely and just fantastic to deal with. So she was amazing. But also, I mean, there was a South African that was on that show. But what it does show is that globally we're all the same. So all those little cringe-worthy moments, you can imagine like a family here being exactly the same, or a son or a daughter. So that is, I think it's something we all relate to, which is why we cringe.
Now tell me, Romi Rabinowitz is busy doing a cookbook at the moment. She and
She
Nina, who
is.
we've had on the show, who is the wife of the former Lithuanian ambassador to South Africa. Nina's cooked with us a few times, but she and Romi are doing this amazing cookbook, and they're telling stories. They're telling stories of Lithuania. They're telling stories of their family histories, and they're doing the most spectacular cookbook. But you managed to convince Romi to spend some time doing some recipes for us.
I did. And I mean, I must tell you, last time I think we wanted her to cook for us, she was in the kitchen with Nina. Nina was here from Lithuania. It was madness. It was hectic. They were just cooking every day. There was like literally, I think 20, 30 recipes a day. So she said, no, we can't do it now, but I promise in future I will do it for you. And I managed to get hold of her for this Rosh Hashanah. And she just happened to be cooking like 5 dishes in the same day. So she was only too happy to share those dishes because she was testing them out for Rosh Hashanah on her family. So she was like, you know what, I'll just do 2 dishes. So she is making for us a honey cake, which I tasted, which is unbelievable. And also a very interesting different chicken dish, which also is amazing with apples and stuff like that. So both very much within the Rosh Hashanah theme. But she just loves her cooking. So she just is happy in the kitchen. It's her happy place. She talks about it. So do have a little interview with her to start. And then she takes us through her 2 recipes. Again, we will send them out. But it's just amazing. You know, if someone has that gift where they just love cooking, it just naturally comes to them, then their food is just naturally delicious. And that's what she has, which is fabulous.
I'm looking forward to watch. Let's watch and roll the videos.
So Rob, thank you again for coming onto our show. Tell me, you've been cooking forever. Have you always been cooking?
Always been cooking. It is my happy place and it is my joy and love to feed my family and friends.
And what is your favorite kind of food to cook?
I mainly cook home cooked, just delicious home cooked family meals with a lot of emphasis on Jewish food and challah, and my main time to entertain is on Shabbos, so it's always Shabbos food.
And tell us, you actually now, so you've done a cookbook. You did it with Dina from Lithuania. Tell us about that.
So Neda, it's so exciting. Neda came to spend the month of March here with me, and we cooked, I think it was 150 recipes in about 2 weeks, because she was only here for a certain amount of time and we needed to get the book done in that time. She's so talented and the book is really so beautiful. It is now just a matter of having it published and printed so that I can get it out to all of you.
All right, and what is if you had to give your best tip to cooks or people for Shabbos, for Yom Tov, what are those tips that you would give them?
The tips that I would give is to be super organized. Have all your ingredients, have your lists done well in advance, have everything printed out. I like to have all my recipes printed out into like a little booklet so that it's easily accessible. I plan my menus well in advance. I make sure that all my dry ingredients are bought, and it's just basically the lettuces and very fresh things that I buy the day before or 2 days before. But otherwise, my secret to all of you is to be super organized so that cooking is easy and fun and you're not exhausted by the time your guests come.
Amazing. And lastly, is there a Rosh Hashanah wish that you'd like to share with our viewers?
I just hope that the coming year is peaceful, that it is happy and healthy, and that everyone is blessed with peace, love and happiness. Shana Tova. Guys, it's Romi Rabinowitz and I'm here to give you some lovely recipes for Rosh Hashanah. I'm going to do an absolutely delicious honey cake that I'm going to be serving for my guests for dessert on second night. You start by brewing some tea, which is 2 tea bags in a cup of water, and set that aside. Then what you will do is you will whisk your eggs and your sugar until it is nice and frothy. So it is 3 eggs at room temperature, and then a cup, here's my brown sugar, and a cup of brown sugar. Let's get this together. And it's nice and frothy, and we're going to add to this mixture 3/4 of a cup of oil, here we go, there it goes in the oil, and then I'm actually going to put in, it's a cup of honey, but I'm just going to put a little bit of oil in the cup and swirl it around, because then the honey is much easier to get out of the cup. So there we go. Let's take the honey. Oil a little bit first, and now let's pour in the honey. You see how easily that comes out. Next we're going to incorporate the dry ingredients. So what I've done over here, I've sifted my flour, and I'm going to place this into the bowl with the eggs. There is, I'll tell you how much flour there is over here. Let me just check my recipe. This is 2.5 cups of flour. Pop that in. It's been sifted, so I've popped that right in. And I'm going to give that a mix. Add in a teaspoon of baking powder. There we go. 2 teaspoons of cinnamon. I just have to say, I just bought myself these incredible, they are magnetic, measuring spoons and measuring cups. I actually got them from at home. I cannot recommend them enough. They've got all the different sizes. In fact, it even comes, this is a 1.5 cup, there's a 3/4 cup. I've just been enjoying them so much. Next, the cinnamon. Give that a mix. And finally, let's add in the tea that has brewed and has slightly cooled down. And guys, it's as simple as that. I have got my pre-greased baking pan. And what I'm going to do, let's just get this out of here. There we go. Ready to go into the oven. So I'm making this cake for Shabbos. So I'm actually going to sprinkle over some raw almonds. For Rosh Hashanah, it's a custom not to eat nuts because egos is the same numerical values as sin. But seeing as though this is the Shabbos before Rosh Hashanah and we're going to have this for Shabbos tonight, I put a few almonds on, and once it's cooked and baked, you leave it in the oven for 35 to 40 minutes. You take it out the oven, and while it's still hot, you drizzle over honey, and it is just the most delicious sweet cake for a happy and healthy New Year, everyone, with peace for all the world. Shana Tova. Guys, I'm going to be doing a chicken recipe for Rosh Hashanah. It has got sweet potatoes, onion, and apple. So what I've done is I have pre-browned my chicken with a little bit of olive oil, and I've set it aside. In the same pan, I added a little bit more olive oil, and I have fried my onions and my Para orange sweet potatoes that I've also fried for about 7 to 8 minutes, just until they're getting a little bit golden and a bit coloured. Next, what we're going to add is we're going to add about 2 to 3 tablespoons of freshly chopped sage and a little bit of jalapeno pepper, just to give it that little spicy kick, just for some flavouring. Continue in your slivered garlic and continue to stir. Over here I have made a mixture of broth. All the ingredients and the measurements are in the recipe. There's broth, there's Dijon mustard, there's honey, and there is some apple juice and apple cider vinegar that I've mixed together with some cornstarch. You then take this while you're stirring, you're going to cook this, you're going to take the broth that you have prepared and you are going to add this to your vegetables. Next, you are going to stir and you are going to thicken. As you can see, the sauce has thickened and we are now going to add the chicken back to the sauce into the pan. Get out a spoon here. Add the chicken back. Yeah. There we go. Next, we're going to take two green apples that I've cut into wedges. Put them around the chicken and the sweet potato. Sprinkle a little bit more sage over, and this will go into the oven until it is brown and crispy. I hope your family enjoys it as much as mine.
See, looks delish, hey?
So I see Mary Ann wants to know the oven temperature for the honey cake, and Phil also wants to know, do we know that?
We do actually. So it says here, preheat your oven to 350 degrees centigrade, which is Fahrenheit, which is 175 degrees centigrade. So, and then you'll put it, and then you bake for 35 to 40 minutes or until the toothpick inserted comes out clean. Obviously preheat your oven, put it in, and then when you take it out, just when it's still warm, that's when you put the honey on. But it was, I tasted it, but it was delicious.
Estelle says she's busy salivating.
And also seemingly quite easy. Actually, so and it's just got that little extra spark and extra little sweetness for Rosh Hashanah. So I'm actually making that one.
Okay, you're a brave person, is all I can say.
But no nuts, because that's the numerical value of sin. Exactly.
Okay, and Aleeza, when the matchmaker also told us you put the head of the fish on the table, not the tail of the fish. Do you do that, or is that something that harkens back to the days of the shtetl?
No, the shtetl lives. The shtetl lives. My family do the head of the table. Or now you can actually get marshmallows that are the head of a fish. I don't know if you've seen those. I think they still sell them at Kosher World.
So, Dina, we were talking earlier because I believe my taste buds have been stuck in the shtetl. And I said one of my favorite things in the world is herring. And cream herring is my favorite. My mother makes the best cream herring in the world. Danish isn't my favorite, but chopped herring I absolutely love. And we want to know, is herring still a thing or not? So we asked Dylan to actually do a poll. We had two questions, but the first question relates to herring. So for those people who are watching us on Zoom, let me tell you what the choice is. It says, do you eat herring? And you're only allowed a choice, but it says a single choice. And so there's yes, no, what is herring, and we'll never touch it. For those people watching on YouTube and on Instagram and on Facebook, maybe you can tell us in the comments whether herring is still a thing for you. But so far, I can tell you the results coming in, and we've had now 130 people voting. 88% of people say yes, 10% of people say no. So I was at Sitnam Shul for a brocha on Saturday. In fact, I brocha hopped because I had a few things. I had Meish Kaplan's second bar mitzvah. He turned 83, so I was at Sitnam Shul, and then I was at Great Park for Seymour Talput's 70th birthday. And one of the questions that I discussed with Rabbi Stern was, he said there's a big divide within the shul whether herring is still a thing for the brocha. And I'm happy to say that there was, and 89% of people who voted actually eat herring. So that's actually an amazing thing to know. We think that maybe the younger generation don't, but it seems like 89% of people watching us tonight do. But you had a question also about gefilte fish, Dina.
Yes, because I mean, gefilte fish is different because it's a cooked fish. But I'm actually like shocked that that is the number. I mean, I'm surprised, but not surprised, but surprised, because I know that people. I mean, and all you have to do is go to a brocha and see the popularity. There's never ever a drop of herring left. But gefilte fish fits into a different category because it's actually a cooked fish. So it's actually, I mean, some people cook it, some people bake it. You can have it in a loaf, in a gefilte loaf. So I also wanted to know, so if you don't eat herring, do you eat gefilte fish?
Even if you do eat herring, do you eat gefilte fish? And
Exactly.
Janet says gefilte fish with a mushroom sauce
Ooh.
is what she's after. And Ruth Reichland said, you cannot have a Jewish Shabbat or Chag without herring. Linda says, chopped herring and kickel is a must. Susan Scher says, absolutely love herring. So for those people who are on Zoom, if you could answer this question for us, and it is, do you eat gefilte fish? For those people watching us on YouTube, don't forget, you should have liked and subscribed our channel. For those people watching on YouTube and on Instagram and on Facebook, please just put a little note in whether you eat gefilte fish or not. And gefilte fish is not as popular as herring, but so far we've had about 155 people voting. 70% of those people eat gefilte fish. We now dropped down to 69%. 25% of people say no, and about 6% of people said they would rather go hungry than ever go near a gefilte fish. But I think part of the problem is no one makes gefilte fish like my mother's gefilte fish. That's why the people who don't eat it just have never tried really good gefilte fish.
Well, as we also discussed a little bit earlier, is that the problem these days is actually cooking the gefilte fish, because herring's one thing. You can cook the herring, or if even raw, you don't have to, depending on what you're having, type of herring, the Marquis herring, the Danish herring, the mustard herring. There's multiple variations of herring. But the gefilte fish, when you cook it, we said you put everything in and then it smells. So some people, and specifically my family, now cook the gefilte fish outside so that the house no longer smells of the gefilte. So I think that's what also people's aversion is that smell.
So in fact, our final results are 69% of people say yes, they eat gefilte fish, 25% say no, and 6% of people would rather, I think, gouge their eyes out with a gefilte fish than never eat it. But very interesting in the comments as well, Estelle says, great to eat, but not to cook. It's just too smelly. And I agree, absolutely. Roz says, very difficult to find excellent bought gefilte fish, only homemade. And Roz, I agree with you, because every bought gefilte fish, they seem to throw in an amount of sugar. It's so sweet, it's actually completely inedible. And Avril says she loves all herring. Ruth says, preparing gefilte fish from scratch is quite a time-consuming job. But I know some of the fish shops actually give you the minced fish and carrots and onions all together. Selwyn says herring and smashed egg with mayo is the first to go at every brocha anywhere. I know I've got 2 kids, it's finished. And Janet says cook in advance and freeze. Janet, I think maybe you cook once a year, because more than once a year to smell up your house like that, absolutely impossible.
And there we have it. But I actually also think that this is very much an Ashkenaz thing. I don't think it's so much a Sephardi issue. What are your thoughts, Howard?
Well, Dina, Sfardis can cook, and they used to joke during COVID that people didn't know when they lost their smell of taste during COVID, whether it was from the COVID or the fact they were eating Ashkenazi cooking. At least that was the joke from all the Sfardim. So I keep on pressurizing you because I want us to do a Sephardi cooking show, and you specifically went to go find us a Sephardi chef.
I did. And she was going to make a meat dish as well, but didn't get the chance. But Sarah Sassoon, who is Iraqi, and actually there are quite a few Iraqi Jews hanging around. So we're definitely going to get more of them onto our program and get them to make some more of their typical traditional dishes. There's one that Kube she was going to make, but instead she is making us something specific for Rosh Hashanah, which is a honey specifically, but with some little twist in terms of her Iraqi heritage, and also gives us a little bit of history on the Jews and their cultures and all the different things for Rosh Hashanah, because that's also quite fascinating. I find that even though we are completely bound by a lot of our similarities, there are still differences and interesting differences. So Sarah actually gives us the whole thing into her cooking and into the heritage, which is great.
I absolutely love kube, so I hope we actually have a kube lesson during our next cooking show. So let's actually watch Sarah tell us a little bit about Iraqi cooking and about Rosh Hashanah.
Hi everyone, my name's Sarah Sassoon. I'm really, really happy to be here with you, even if it's a recording. I'm recording from Jerusalem, Sunday morning. I'm afraid I couldn't be there with you tonight because I have a wedding. Life goes on here. The people of Israel are brave. They're getting married, they're having babies, and the Khatan's actually a soldier, and he's getting married and going straight back to the front right after the wedding, a couple of days later. So that's the reality here, but we're here to strengthen ourselves and share our recipes of Rosh Hashanah. And I thought I'd start with a slideshow and speak about, so I'm going to be speaking about my Iraqi Jewish apple jam. My family's from Iraq. It's the real accurate way of calling Iraqi Jews is Babylonian Jews. This is the way they call themselves, Yehudei Bavel. And our customs and culture go all the way back to the times of the Babylonian Talmud, the times even before, with the Judean exile by Nebuchadnezzar in 586 BCE. Our traditions are ancient, they belong to all of us because all the Jews went through Babylonia basically. There was the 586 BCE exile with the first temple destruction, and then there was the 70 CE exile with the Roman exile, the second temple destruction. And the Jews went, this is something I really want to share with all Ashkenazi Jews out there, that you all have Babylonian roots. This is something an elderly Iraqi woman taught me, and it's something I share. Excuse the dog. Yeah, this is like a real Zoom session with real interruptions. So basically, we all hail from Babylonia. We all have Babylonian Jewish roots. The Babylonian Talmud, something we all share. And so I thought to go into the source of why do we have signs at our Rosh Hashanah table, like apples and honey. For Iraqi Jews, it's apple jam. Iraqi Jews and many Mizrahi communities from Lebanon, Tunisia, there's Northern African communities, they have a Rosh Hashanah Seder of many signs. So I thought to share with you some background to that, because I think especially now at these times that we're living in, these historic Jewish times, we need to share our roots, and we need to share how nothing is new with Jewish history and the Jewish story, and the signs that we eat and tear, actually. Iraqi Jews tear these signs and say these prayers at our Seder table, reflect how Jewish history just is a cycle and a spiral. So let me share my screen. And yeah, let's do this. So let's go to the beginning though. 1 second. So I entitled this More Than Apple and Honey. I did a presentation for the Harif Institute on apple jam. And it's about realizing that different communities have different traditions. So this is actually my great uncle. It's a Shana Tova card in Israel. They were already in Israel in, this is the early 50s. This card was done with their baby and their child. That's how they used to send greeting cards in those days. So basically, what are these signs that we have at the Seder table, like apples and honey? So it all comes from the Babylonian Talmud. There's a whole discussion about the signs. And it begins with Rav Ami saying, one who desires to know if he will live through this current year or not should bring a lit candle during those 10 days between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, and hang it in a house through which wind does not blow, and he should watch it carefully. If his light continues, he shall know that he will live out his year. And one who desires to conduct business and want to know if his business will succeed or not strays a rooster. If the rooster gets fat and beautiful, he shall know that the venture will succeed. This one who wishes to leave on a journey and wants to know whether he will return to his home shall enter a dark house. If he sees a reflection of his reflection, he shall know that he will return and come to his home. So this is all very in the Yiddish words, Baba Meiserish, like, what is this? This isn't very Jewish. We don't really hold by signs like this. And rightly so, the sages say about this, and this is nothing, one should not practice these divinations, as perhaps he will become despondent if he does not see the positive sign, and his fortune will turn bad, and this itself will result in its failure. So it's this feeling of, no, don't follow these signs. That's a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you don't see it, bad things will happen. So, but Abaya comes and says, now that we have said that a sign is a substantial matter, so it's not that signs aren't important. He says we should do signs for Rosh Hashanah. And he says a person should be accustomed to eat at the start of the year good, fenugreek, leeks, beets, and dates, as each of these grow and multiply quickly, which is a good omen for the deeds of the upcoming year. So it's saying we do believe in signs, but positive signs. And these are the signs and the simanim that we have at our Rosh Hashanah Seder as Babylonian Jews. And many Mizrahi communities and Sephardic communities have their signs, and each one has a different kind of take. This is the list according to the Ben Ish Chai, Rabbi Yosef Chaim of Baghdad. He was a Kabbalist in the 19th century. And what's interesting is how the prayers, the Yiratzons, we say with these signs. And that's what I want to just point out and share, because I think it gives us a lot of strength. So we have we start with the Tamar, which is the Tamari, the dates. The words are actually in Aramaic, as we'll see. And the whole prayer with the dates is a play on words, as we'll see with all the signs. It's all a play on words. So it's about Yitamu Oivenu. So may our enemies be vanquished. We ask for our enemies to be vanquished. And then we have the Rubia, which is about, we do it on Lubia, which is green beans, long green beans, which are very expensive at the shuk at this time of year. And we say, Shirbu Zuchiyotenu V'tilvavenu. May our merit increase and our hearts expand. So this is a positive sign. And we call the Lubia at this time of year Rubia, after this from the Yirbu. It's the play on words. And then we have Karati, we have the leek. So this actually in Baghdad was done on chives. When I was doing my Harif talk, a Baghdadi man said in Baghdad we did it on chives. And it's Yekaratu Sonenu. May those who hate us be cut off. And this is, again, against our enemies. And the Baghdadi Jews, the Babylonian Jews, we break the chives. We don't actually eat the leeks. It's become very popular to make tzitzot, which is like patties, leek patties in Israel, but that's a modern development. Really, they tore it. My grandfather tore it. And that's why I don't have any special food for leeks. Although I did, as shown in the photo here, I make leeks with dates and honey and olive oil, and it's actually a very nice combination. I roasted in the oven. So that is a fun thing to do with leeks if you want to eat the leeks. But as my aunt said, you don't eat it. It's to tear our enemies, just cut them off. So you you tear it, you cut it, you do the action, again, the symbol of what we want done to our enemies. So then we have silka, which is the Baghdadi Jews, the Babylonian Jews take marigolds and they again tear it, and we say, Yistalku oivenu v'sonenu v'chol mevakshei ra'atenu. May you cause our enemies and those who hate us and see evil for us to retreat. And again, the action of tearing. So, but some people eat beets, and then we have kara, the gourd. The Babylonian Jews use zucchini for this, and it's about the prayer is Yikra Gazad Dinenu v'yikra'u lefanecha zuchiyotenu. May our bad decrees be torn up and our merits be announced to you. Again, there's a tearing with the Baghdadi Jews here. And what's interesting, I found this year, going back to the Simanim and looking at the source and seeing there's a real Babylonian Talmudic source for it, is the idea that we've always had enemies, and this year we are going to sit at our Seder tables and we're really going to tear the leeks, and we're going to say these Yehi Ratzon with real kavanah, because we really do have enemies, and we've always had enemies. These are ancient prayers, ancient Yehi Ratzons, and they reflect that throughout Jewish history we've had difficult times and we've had to fight our enemies, and this is the way we began our year every year, to wish for our merits to increase and our hearts to expand, but at the same time for the threats that we are threatened with to be decreased. And then we have our other symbols, which are more well known. We've got the pomegranate, and we say, may we be filled with good deeds like a pomegranate is filled with seeds. And we have the apple jam, the apple and honey. May you renew us for a year that is good and sweet like honey. And that's what the rest of my talk will be about. And we also have the head of a ram or a fish. So nowadays it's much more common to have the head of a fish. In Bavel, in Babylonian custom, used to do the head of a ram. And this was also because of the sacrifice of Yitzchak, of Isaac. And we say, if you do the head of ram, you also say, and you shall remember for us the binding and the ram of our forefather Isaac, the son of our forefather Abraham, peace be unto them. And it's the whole idea of Akedat Yitzchak being remembered on Rosh Hashanah, the idea of sacrifice, of kapara. And but mainly in Babylonian Jews now do the head of a fish. It's just much more convenient. But in Baghdad, it really was a thing to do the head of a ram. So now we move on to apple jam. So where does the source of having sweet things come from? The apples and honey that we all know about, which in Babylonia they did apple jam. It comes from the book of Nehemiah. There's a scene in Nehemiah in chapter 8 where Ezra, who's the scribe, who is the spiritual arm of the restoration of the Second Temple period. So what happens is the Jews return with the Cyrus edict after 70 years in Bavel, and they come to Judea, and the Second Temple is already built, but the people aren't rebuilt. The society, as we know, returning to Israel is a process, and in those days it was also a process, just like it is today. And part of the process was having Ezra come as the spiritual leader, and Nehemiah was the political leader to create social justice. And together they have this extraordinary chapter where they re-give the Torah to the people. And the sages say this day was Rosh Hashanah. It was the first day of the year, and they're reading to the people the Torah, and the people are crying, and they're saying, and Nehemiah and Ezra and the Levites come to them and explain, no, this is not a day of crying. Yes, it's a day of repentance and a day of learning Torah and knowing the will of God, but really, what does God want? And here it says it in verse 9 to 10. Nehemiah the Tishata, Ezra the priest, and the scribe, and the Levites who were explaining to the people, said to all the people, this day is holy to the Lord your God. You must not mourn or weep, for all the people weeping as they listen to the words of the teaching. He further said to them, go eat choice foods and drink sweet drinks, and send portions to whoever has nothing prepared. For the day is holy to our Lord. Do not be sad, for your rejoicing in the Lord is the source of your strength. So this was the message on Rosh Hashanah to them, that it's not about mourning or regretting so much that you were crying and miserable. Rather, through coming together as a community, eating together, giving those who do not have food, and having sweet foods. That is the source of your strength. That is the source of your strength as the Jewish people. That is what we are building here. We are not building a people of sadness and despair. We are building a people of strength and joy who know the word of the Lord and rejoice in the word of the Lord. And that's what they do. They go home and they do this. And that's where the source for having apples and honey on Rosh Hashanah come from, to have something sweet. So it's not just to wish you a sweet new year, which is definitely part of it, but it's also the idea of rejoicing on Rosh Hashanah. It's a day of joy. And this year especially, we need to remember this. It's very hard to hold all the grief of everything we've been through, especially here in Israel, but at the same time, we are preparing for Rosh Hashanah. Everyone still has to cook their meals, send meals to the soldiers. We are holding prayers for the remaining 101 hostages. And I guess I should start it off by saying that whatever we learn today, whatever should be in the merit of the safe return of the hostages, should be in the merit of the safety of our soldiers who are at the moment on the Northern Front, including my son. They're all ready for whatever will be. We never know from day to day what happens here. Yesterday was a great day. With the termination of Nasrallah, extermination of Nasrallah, and please God, we should just have good news, and we create good news, and with our joy, with our faith, and apple jam for me is what is a symbol of that. So this is my apple jam recipe from my grandmother. When I arrived in South Africa from Sydney, many years ago now, I lived there for 13 years. I was very young, and Rosh Hashanah was coming, and I was thinking of my grandmother's apple jam. And I thought, how can I have Rosh Hashanah without the apple jam? So I called my grandmother, and she gave me the recipe. This is it, scribbled on the paper, exactly as is. And from here, I developed my recipe and make apple jam just like my grandmother did, just like her mother did, and just like the Iraqi tradition is. So now, another thing I want to just say about all these different signs, maybe I'll come back to this at the end. I hope I remember and don't run out of time. But okay, so this is the apple jam, and this is how, these are the ingredients. You have apples, and you peel them, and it's a lot of peeling, and you cut them into chunks, and you pour sugar as you peel them so it doesn't go brown. And what we're going to do is you leave the sugar overnight over the apples, and it becomes a really lovely syrup overnight. It's just apples and sugar left overnight. In the recipe, I write a certain amount of sugar, but really I just pour as much sugar as covers the apples. I'm not concerned with too much sugar with this jam. And this is the way I leave it overnight. And then this is the video of me explaining what to do once it's done overnight.
The next day, and you can see the sugar's melted. It's kind of just absorbed the apple juice, and the apple's actually not even brown because of the sugar. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put it on. I'm going to put the fire on.
I should note that I did 2 pots, 2 different apples.
Those are 2 different ones.
Green apples and red apples. I wasn't sure which would work better.
Which ones they are according to the pot. I'm going to put it on low and simmer it. I probably will put this on a lower flame, but for now, just so it boils, I'll put it to boil, but I will add cardamom pods. So I said in the recipe 5, I'm going to put a little bit more. It feels like not enough. I don't really measure, which is the way my grandmother used to do it. And of course, it all depends on how you like it to taste. So I'm just going to put that in. And grab a spoon and stir it in. And you can just add as much cardamom or as little cardamom as you like, and just boil it up. And I'm going to leave it to simmer for about 40 minutes, maybe longer, depending. I like it to be golden. My cousin who was born in Aleeza, which is in the south of Iraq, where the shrine of Ezra the scribe is, said his wife just made 3 batches with 3 different types of apples, and all of it didn't quite work the way that it usually does. So we'll see what happens. It'll still taste good, whatever the result. And yeah, we'll see how these go and we'll come back to it. Great.
So this is it going. This is how it simmers.
So it's browning, but it's not done yet. And the truth is, it's been about 40 minutes. So I'm obviously going to let it go for longer. And yeah, we'll see how it goes. So we're all done. This was the green apple. And because it's the end, I'm going to just pour a little bit of rose water. In the recipe, it says 1 tablespoon. I don't measure, I just pour a bit. I also like to add a squeeze of lemon. Just for it gives it a bit of like a zingy taste. But you don't have to, that's optional. So the green actually turned out more better, more jammy. Here it is. It didn't fall apart. And I think when my father's cousin said his didn't work out, I think it's because it turned out more like this. It fell apart more. You can see this is the red apple. It'll still be delicious, and I'm not worried. Now, in terms of timing, this took hours. I'll be honest. It's now, I started about 1:30, and now it's like 4 o'clock. So it's a long, long time. You have to just watch it, and you have to see the texture for yourself. So anyway, enjoy, and I hope everyone has a wonderful Rosh Hashanah.
So basically, yeah, that's the process of making apple jam. And as I said, it's very, very symbolic. So when you eat your apple and honey this year, it's more than just wishing yourself a sweet new year. It's buying into the idea and the message from Nehemiah and Ezra that let it be a time of joy, how to hold grief and joy at once, how to hold everything that's happened to us, but everything we pray for, and also the joy of being together with your family. It's not taken for granted anymore. There are going to be many missing people at tables throughout Israel this year for many, many reasons. Many miluimnikim have been called out, many reservists, too many fathers are not at the table, too many brothers, too many sisters. And then there's everyone that has been lost. It's going to be a sad Rosh Hashanah, but I really hope that we all can lean into the joy of what we do have, not what we've lost, but what we do still have, and we have a lot. So the last thing I just want to say is that one of the things that's encouraged is also to develop your own customs and meanings. It's really fun for the kids. Something I do is I make mahasha, which is stuffed onions, and I use that as a symbol of how onions make you cry when they're raw, but when you cook them, they become sweet and delicious. And may we do that with all our sorrow, cook them into something, let them transform into something beautiful and meaningful, and so that it doesn't go to waste. It's not a loss as much as a growth. It's like what Rabbi Doron Perez says, and he's the example to all of us of how to deal with deep, deep loss and grief, but how to maintain faith and hope and be stronger. And he says, you've no choice, you have to take the high road. So yeah, lemons are another example of my grandmother used to make lemon drink with sugar, and to make lemonade out of lemons. And that is what I wish for everyone this Rosh Hashanah, that please God, it's been a very sorrowful year, that we pray for unity, for peace, for real peace, for the safety of our soldiers, the safe return of our hostages. And a deep prayer I have is that the hate in everyone's hearts, but especially our enemies' hearts are transformed. And when we say our simanim this year, we will really mean them. So wishing you all just a blessed new year, and thank you for having me.
Well, Dina, so are you going to have time to make apple jam before Rosh Hashanah?
Well, it depends how long it takes to peel and to all of that. And then you need like 3.5 hours to let it boil. I like mushy jam. I don't like solid jam.
I think it's worthwhile, but no one has time in the next 3 days to make that. But there will be people who are unable to read that on screen. I don't know what it looked like to you. I couldn't read any of that on screen.
I also couldn't. I don't know if it's how it downloaded, but
we're sending out all the recipes. And so if you registered for the webinar, please go, even if you didn't, please go register now so we know to email you through all the recipes. If you're watching us on YouTube, please like and subscribe so we can post the recipes there, and you should be notified about that as well. And we'll send out to our email database as well so people can see some of the amazing recipes tonight. What was your favorite?
So I actually think for me, just because what I'm going to make is that honey cake. Although I must say Kim's dessert as well is tempting to make. It is tempting to make. But I know I'm not going to make it. But the honey cake, I think I might make.
Okay.
What are you making?
I'm making none of these. It's all too difficult for me.
You're sticking to your herring.
I'm sticking to my herring, to my mock crayfish, to my gazpacho, my vichyssoise, my salmon Wellington, and I've already bought my ice cream.
So I'm not so sure how Jewish and Litvak vichyssoise and your other soups are.
So can I tell you something interesting? Vichyssoise is not French.
What is it? We've been lied to all this time.
All this time, vichyssoise was actually created for the opening of the Waldorf Astoria Hotel in New York. They just looked for a French name to call their new cold soup.
Who would have known?
With that, let us enter the new year without these falsehoods around us. I want to take this opportunity to everyone who's watched us, not just tonight, but who's watched our programming over the last year, where we probably had 2 million, 3 million people who watched some of our broadcasts over the last 12 months from Rosh Hashanah to this Rosh Hashanah. So I want to thank you all. And I want to give you a blessing on behalf of the board of the Jewish Report, volunteers like myself and Dina and Benji Porter and Sean Mattison, our amazing professional staff led by editor Peter Crost, to amazing people like Dylan and Britt and Sandy, from all of our journalists. We think that ultimately we've built one of the greatest Jewish newspapers in the world, that we are completely professional, we're completely unbiased, and in a world where really news has become just nonsense propaganda, we've been able to provide complete, genuine, credible news to our community. And we see it around the world, because we see that 120,000 people come onto our website every single month to read us, because we're a credible source of news. We think that's absolutely amazing. And the fact that we've continued to be able to do it with an amazing group of volunteers on the board and people printing and distributing and writing for us, it's just simply incredible. With that, I want to thank you not just for watching, but thank you for all the support that you've given to all of us over the past year. May we all be blessed in the new year with life, with health, with happiness, and with peace. We'll see you after Rosh Hashanah. Chag Sameach, Dina, and Chag Sameach to everyone who's watching us.
Chag Sameach.